Welcome, welcome. I thought I'd start a new series of videos, which has sort of developed from just doing a few posts that you can find on Facebook as well. I'm entitling the series A Closer Look at ACA. What's come out of that is like alternating currents, because we're in a realm of duality. So I've given 5 words, I think it was, or 4 words: bias, hatred, propaganda, and tree. And by breaking down the etymology and looking at each letter as a character, and then when you string those characters together, they make a spell. And then what comes out of that, what is revealed in that. So I thought, let's go for a bit of listener participation. So I'll take the first 5 words that you throw at me. I could also, with the alphabet, say to include the 27th character of the alphabet, the one that everybody forgets, the ampersand. I've spoken about that one before, but maybe it'd be a good time to reiterate these things. As I put on the Facebook posts, the source of the material of those posts is Dr. One Forfar, and it is just based on how I see things, my perception. But if there are things where I know the source, I will quote them. So if I use an analogy to something that Rudolf Steiner says, I will bring that into the equation. So to give you an example, let's start at the beginning. Let's start with source, because you always need to check your sources. So source, S-O-U-R-C-E. Let's say that again. Let's say those characters again, and then look what starts to reveal. S-O-U-R-C-E. By altering the timing of the spacing between each character, we could even close them up. So U-R-C-E. It's still source. It's starting to reveal something. So. Think of, if you put a W on the end of sow, what you're going to get from that, like sowing seeds. So you are, or your, and then CE. So C is to see, and what are you seeing? You're seeing energy. Source is a label. Another label would be God or the Creator. It's doesn't matter which label you use, but if we take each letter of the word source, it's spirit, organic or whole. It's you. It's R, because it's a ray of light, because you're observing and you're casting a light at something. Therefore you are seeing energy. Now if you see in the moment the beauty and timing of things, that is source in action, or God in action, you could say. But source, very similar, of course, is source. Something you would have with a meal, but this is mind food we're talking here. But so, the source, S-A-U-C-E. So now you've got spirit, you've got AU, which is gold. So you're in awe of the spirit. The spirit comes first, there's the gold, the radiance of that spirit, and then you see the energy. That's how I would explain the 2 spellings of source. And in a way, if you think about this, each letter or each character of the alphabet, I have suggested that they are symbolic shorthand representations of things, and this has been confirmed from I can't even remember which videos or which channels it came from, but it basically reiterated this, that it's not unlike the Chinese characters in that writing system, where they are shorthand depictions. So, as I've suggested many times before, the letter L in its capital form, it's representing the lower calf of the leg and the foot. So if we have a word like hell, the H, if you think about what the capital H consists of, it's two uprights and then it has a horizontal line in the middle. It's representing the splitting of cells, one becoming two. E is always energy. Now, if you look at the character E, you'll notice it is an I, and then to the right of it is three horizontal lines. Depending on the font, generally the middle line is shorter than the upper and the lower. I would suggest that that alludes to taking the shortest route. In other words, seek the kingdom within and all will be given to you. So I will be bringing in various bits and pieces. In some ways it's being like a chef, and I'm just picking out different flavors, different herbs and spices, and I'm just adding flavor to the basic meal or the language. An interesting challenge would be if you could give me words in English and maybe give me an Italian or a Bulgarian equivalent, but obviously I don't know why I picked Bulgarian, because they use a slightly different script from the alphabet, but converted into the alphabet, that'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. For example, in English, I am. Now that has its mirror counterpart of Maya, the world of illusion. And between the I am and the Maya is obviously the aim, the intention. But what happens if we take I am and we put it into, say, French? It becomes je suis. Well, basically what you've got there is the name Jesus with an I in it. And straight away comes into the mind Paul the Apostle saying, do you not realize that Christ is within you? There's something else, it will come to me in a moment. Yes, and in German, ich bin is I am. So I, see, human, be, which is duality, in. So it's referencing about seeing, going within. In the German, the I am is ich bin, I, Christ, be in, you could say. I did, when I covered this on a video a long time ago, I did pick a few other languages, and it basically gave the same message. Just looking at the characters that make up the 26, well, actually 27 letters of the alphabet, because everybody forgets the one that has no sound. That is the ampersand. It's the silent player that has no sound of its own. It's a fusion of the A and the E, the all and the everything. If you were to draw it, it's an interesting path as to where it starts and where it leads and the direction it goes. So if you picture in your mind you're drawing an ampersand, you would start off, I'll do it with my eyes closed because it's easier to picture in the mind. I'd start off with a point at the bottom, and I would be moving up, but I would be moving to the left. Now I would reach a point where I start curving upwards and to the right. I reach that high point, now I start my descent. Now I'm crossing over myself, and I'm heading downwards and to the left. But then I curl back again and start to rise, and I come out in the middle. The all and the everything. It has no sound, but it links things together. It's the coming together of heaven and earth, you could say. So that's a little taster, a little flavour of where we can go with this series of videos. I could give you a breakdown of all 27 characters, if you would like, as well. But I feel to start off with, let's make this a little bit more interactive. So the first 5 of you that comment and suggest a word, and I may not even know the word, but I'll see what is revealed in the stringing together of these characters. In a way, you could say a tarot card reading. The card expresses a series of meanings depending on which way up it is, and it's also the interaction of where that card is placed in relation to another card. So in a way, that is like an extended language, but it would take far longer to say it using cards. But it follows the same principle, that when you string together these characters and you create a spell, it's got far more than just that one word. It reveals far more in it. There's other factors that will come into this as well. The vowel change, because things can be substituted, like the SON and the SUN. It's deliberately blurred in the same way as if I was to say to you, I'm talking about English. And what I'm meaning by that is people who are born in England and speak English as their native tongue. But in the next sentence, I may use the same term English, but I'm now referring to anybody that can speak English, regardless of whether they were born in England or not, and regardless of whether it is their first language or a secondary language. This is how things, particularly in the Bible, the blurred confusions between Israelites, Hebrews and such like, how it's been obscured. So by sort of blurring the boundaries, it muddies the waters on what is actually being revealed. I was thinking as well, if I was to take Genesis 1:1 and actually broke down every character that makes up that first verse, what would that reveal? That may be something to add into this as well. On a final note, I did contemplate and mention it about in a video about membership, but I don't really want to lead towards a monetized channel, to be perfectly honest. But beyond that, it's like, well, that then creates a sort of exclusivity, and to me that doesn't feel right. Surely this should be open for anybody. So hence the Facebook posts I've set so they're public. So anybody, you don't even have to be friends on Facebook. You'll still be able to see them if you find my page on Facebook, and you'll find links are in the description to the video. It's Juan Forfar on Facebook, I seem to recall. I haven't checked for a long. I don't go on there that often, but something popped into the mind, as it does, and I thought, let's make a post and put it on Facebook. The word proper and its second half gander, and what can be revealed in that. I know one channel, Static in the Attic, has come up with a beautiful way of getting round censorship by not saying certain words but just alluding to them. So for example, the tycoon and the silly service and the astronomer who is aiming and I thought that's actually a brilliant thing. But you can also see an unfolding in that, in real time, of how language can suddenly change. And then think about that in context of the Bible. I'm going off on a slight tangent, but I want to go with this anyway. So for example, as Static in the Attic in particular, and Archaic's channel, and many other channels, I think Dante Forston is another one, there's a lot of people who are pointing towards this Yahweh is as Jason of our character calls it, a desert demon, and it's issuing out threats and punishments, and it's a tyrant. But when you read it from the point or from the perspective of an internal journey, the Yahweh is not actually a desert demon. What it represents is your conscious mind. The threats and punishments are what are created from that conscious mind that are translated across to the subconscious, which then filters down into the multitude, the cells of the body. So you can turn yourself into an acidic state. So the Yahweh is just really internally another aspect of yourself. Yes, you could call it a desert demon, because are you doing yourself any favour getting enraged, having deep-seated feelings of hatred? I gave a breakdown of that word. It consists of hat and red. Well, hat, think of the chakra system. It's referring to the head, so it's the mind and the thoughts, which obviously transmit down, and it's something from those thoughts, maybe from stories you've heard. You've formed an opinion, you've thought about something, you've followed a script maybe, and of course you've imported that script, and now you're triggered and you see red. So it's coming from the hell, it's coming from the lower chakras, and it's erupting out like a volcano. It's a kind of ascension, but not the positive polarity ascension, because it will just spill out as rage and anger if it's not kept in check. But this is where it comes down to being master of your vessel, and I feel this may go some way to aid you through that. It's a sort of little sideline, as it were, that's not really the most essential internal work, but I feel this may give you a different perspective by looking at words, looking at the word spell, and then being able to do this for yourself. So you see a word and then you see what is really revealed in that word. Another case would be a word like government. Ment is mind, which I believe is from the Latin. So it's something that's governing the mind, which would lead nicely onto the word bias. By-as. You can interpret that any way you like, or you can go and look at the Facebook post I did on that one. And I'd also say look at the one I did on the word tree, and how tree relates to man as well. Because you have branches, you have a root system, which you can see the similarity if you see a schematic of the nervous system, the veins and the arteries, for example. So that, you could say, represents maybe 3 trees, but you're like a folded up tree. Your roots and your branches are all contained within yourself. Effectively, the universe is you in verse. I would describe the soul as the carrier of the spirit, but the spirit is greater than the soul. So it would go like an inverse Russian doll. So if you can imagine trying to fit the spirit inside the soul, but the spirit is actually bigger than the soul, if we were to give it sort of a physical way of explaining it. It can be done in the mind, but obviously it can't be done in the physical. It's in some ways it alludes to, it's easier to get a camel through the eye of a needle than to get a rich man in heaven. Obviously that makes no sense in the literal, or if you to hear it that in the literal sense. But remember, a lot of these things are metaphors. The key part with the needle is it's the eye. It's a single eye. It's referring to the mind's eye. It's what you import and how you weigh things up, how you see things. So as much as anything else, I feel this could be a great exercise in giving you a new perspective at looking at things. So I'm going to leave this open to the first 5 commentators and throw your words across, or if you like, I could even do an explanation of the numerical characters 0 to 9. So entirely up to you. So we'll leave that there as this introductory video to a closer look at, and look forward to hearing from you. As always, unconditional love to you all.